If you enjoy slow-burn horror stories, first-person narrations, and true-feeling urban legends that crawl under your skin and stay there, make sure you're subscribed. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and don't eat while you listen, because some restaurants don't just serve food. They serve people. I've tried telling this story before. I've told police officers who wouldn't meet my eyes, doctors who nodded while writing notes that never seemed to include the things I actually said, friends who went quiet and then changed the subject, because it was easier to believe I was traumatized than to believe I was telling the truth. So I stopped talking, but silence didn't make the memories fade. I still smell it sometimes. That heavy, savory scent that clings to the back of your throat and makes your stomach growl even when fear should have killed your appetite. I still hear metal sliding on metal when I'm trying to sleep. I still wake up convinced I can hear breathing just on the other side of my bedroom wall. I know now why they never found anything. I know how careful they were, and I know that somewhere, beneath a building that looks perfectly normal, there are cages waiting to be filled again. This is what happened to me. I worked nights at a printing warehouse on the edge of the city. The kind of place where the lights are always too bright and the air smells faintly of ink and dust. When my shift ended at 2 a.m., the streets were usually empty, the buses already done for the night. That's why I noticed the restaurant. It sat alone at the far end of the industrial district, where factories gave way to abandoned lots and half-collapsed buildings. No sign, no neon, just a single rectangular window glowing warm yellow against the fog. I remember thinking it looked like a promise. The bell above the door chimed when I stepped inside. The warmth wrapped around me immediately, fogging my glasses. The smell was overwhelming: meat, herbs, something rich and slow-cooked. My stomach twisted painfully. There were only 3 booths and a counter. No other customers. The vinyl seats were cracked and patched with tape. The floor tiles were scrubbed so clean they almost gleamed. A chalkboard menu hung behind the counter. Meat stew house cut chef's choice. No prices. The man behind the counter looked up as if he'd been waiting for me. He smiled, and something about it made my skin prickle. Not cruel, not friendly, just practiced. "You look tired," he said. I nodded. He didn't ask what I wanted, just turned toward the kitchen. "It'll be ready soon," he said. "You can wait in the back. It's warmer there." I should have left. Instead, I followed him. The kitchen was spotless. Stainless steel counters reflected the fluorescent lights overhead. Pots hung from hooks, arranged by size. A radio murmured quietly from a shelf, some late-night talk show crackling through static. But underneath, the clean smell of disinfectant was something else. Metallic, sweet. At the far end of the kitchen was a door I hadn't seen from the dining area. Thick, industrial, reinforced with a keypad instead of a handle. I stared at it a second too long. That's storage, the man said quickly. Staff only. Something moved behind the door. Not a crash, not a voice. A dull, living thump. I stepped back, my heart suddenly racing. The man's smile didn't falter. The lights went out. When I woke up, my head felt split open. My mouth tasted like chemicals. I tried to move, and metal rattled. Bars. I was inside a cage. Not a cell, a cage, welded steel with a sliding door, and a lock thick as my wrist. The floor beneath me was concrete, ice cold and damp. When I stood, my hands brushed the ceiling. I wasn't alone. The room stretched farther than I could see, lit by buzzing fluorescent lights. Cages lined the walls, stacked 2 levels high like shelving. Some were empty. Others held people, men and women of different ages, sitting or lying curled in on themselves. No one screamed. The air smelled worse down here. Blood, cleaning chemicals, cooked meat. Along the center of the room ran a long metal table, slightly sloped, with grooves carved into its surface. Hooks hung above it. Drains cut into the floor beneath. I understood then, and I nearly vomited. I didn't see everything the first time. I heard it. Footsteps approached. Keys jingled. A lock slid open with a sound that echoed far too loudly in the silence. Someone was led from a cage near the far wall. A young man, early 20s. He walked stiffly, like his legs didn't quite remember how to work. His wrists were bound. His eyes were unfocused, glassy. They laid him on the table. I turned my head away. I still heard the sounds, the scrape of metal tools, the wet, deliberate work. The radio upstairs bleeding faintly through the ceiling, playing something cheerful and wrong. When it was over, workers cleaned the table with practiced efficiency. The drains ran dark, then clear again. They rolled away what was left. No one spoke. We learned the rules quickly. Don't scream. Don't fight. Don't look directly at the workers. Those who did were taken sooner. Food arrived twice a day. Bowls of thin broth pushed through slots in the cages. Just enough to keep us alive. Just enough to keep the meat usable. They talked about us like inventory. Too thin, good condition. Use her last. I stopped thinking of myself as a person. I became something waiting to be used. Her name was Mara. She whispered it to me one night when the lights flickered and the room settled into uneasy quiet. She'd been there longer than I had. She knew things. They don't waste anything, she said softly. Bones go to stock. Fat goes to rendering. Skin depends. Her voice didn't shake. That terrified me more than if it had. People upstairs love it, she continued. They say it tastes better because it's fresh, because it's afraid. I pressed my forehead to the bars and cried without sound. The next morning, Mara's cage was empty. The number on the clipboard was crossed out. Every evening, a clipboard came down the stairs. A man checked cages, made notes. nodded to himself. When someone was taken, he marked it down. Hours later, a hatch in the ceiling opened and a chalkboard was lowered. New specials, different cuts. I recognized the handwriting. Dinner rush. Time stopped meaning anything. Days passed, or weeks. I lost weight. My hands shook constantly. I memorized cracks in the concrete, stains on the floor, the pattern of rust on the cage bars. At night, I dreamed of kitchens. I dreamed of sitting at a booth, spooning stew into my mouth, tasting something familiar and wrong. My cage was labeled last. I didn't know if that was mercy or preference. I didn't escape because I was brave. I escaped because someone made a mistake. Upstairs, during the dinner rush, a pan tipped. Oil ignited. Flames climbed the wall faster than anyone expected. The fire alarm screamed. For the first time, the routine shattered. Workers ran. Doors were left unlocked. Keys were dropped. Smoke poured down the stairwell. I forced my shaking hands through the bars of the unlocked cage and ran. The dining room was chaos. Sprinklers soaked the booths. Customers stood coughing, confused, still clutching utensils. The smell of burning oil mixed with the smell I now knew too well. The chalkboard menu was being erased in a hurry. I slipped through the back door barefoot, bleeding, my lungs burning. No one stopped me. They were too busy serving the last orders. The restaurant burned to the ground. No basement was found. No cages. The official report called it an illegal meat operation. That's what people prefer to believe. A new place opened last week. No sign. Open late. 5-star reviews. Someone posted a photo of the specials. I recognize the handwriting. If you're listening to this while eating, stop. If you know a restaurant that never closes, that doesn't list prices, that smells too rich to be real, don't go inside. Some kitchens don't serve food. They serve proof. If this story disturbed you, let me know by leaving a comment. Your engagement helps these stories reach more listeners. Subscribe for more first-person horror narrations, dark urban legends, and stories you weren't meant to hear. And remember, not everything on the menu is what it seems.
Your turn's coming.